The hidden risks of government secrecy and national security. Explore how government classified information and secrecy impact national security, transparency issues, and public trust, highlighted by a thrilling read. Why government secrecy matters more than you think. Hey, I want to tell you about something that's been on my mind lately. Government secrecy and how it intersects with national security risks. Now, I know this topic might sound a little dry or maybe even conspiracy theory-ish at first glance, but stick with me here because this stuff is actually pretty fascinating and important. So here's the deal. Governments all over the world keep a ton of information classified. We're talking about government classified information that doesn't get shared with the public. Sometimes it's obvious why, like military strategies or ongoing covert operations. But then, there's this whole other layer of government information secrecy that feels like it's way beyond what's justifiable. And that's where things get tricky. What worries me is the balance, or sometimes lack of it, between government confidentiality meant to protect citizens and the public's right to know. Governments argue that withholding certain information keeps us safe from threats, terrorism, espionage, and so on. And sure, in many cases that's true. But what about when government secret policies go unchecked? Policies that might cause more harm than good or aren't aligned with democratic values. When secrecy becomes a shield for bad decisions or abuses of power, it's a serious problem. Take, for example, the mess created by leaks from whistleblowers in the past decade. They've shown us how government document secrecy can sometimes be used to hide unethical behaviors or controversial programs. It sparks major debates about government transparency issues. How open should a government be? And what happens if the veil of secrecy gets punctured? Does that compromise national security or help democracy thrive? Now, all of this makes for great thriller material. And speaking of which, there's this book I recently came across called Hush, a psychological thriller of alien manipulation and deep state deceit. It's a gripping story that plays on these ideas of hidden agendas and the shadows behind government secrecy. Not only is it a page-turner, but it also makes you think about the very real implications of what happens when governments keep too much under wraps. If you're into thrillers that mix suspense with real-world issues like secret programs, manipulation, and power struggles, I highly recommend checking it out. You can buy now in ebook, print, or audio and get lost in a world where government secrecy isn't just about safety. It's about survival and control. Back to the topic, though. National security risk isn't always about external enemies. Sometimes the biggest threat comes from what's hidden inside. The risk that secrecy itself breeds mistrust, misinformation, and unchecked authority. When citizens are kept in the dark, it can lead to paranoia and unrest, which ironically can make everyone less secure. Of course, complete transparency isn't feasible either. Imagine if every classified document was instantly public. Sensitive information could fall into the wrong hands, which could jeopardize military operations, diplomatic relations, and even the safety of everyday people. So how do we find a balance? There's no easy answer, but a key part of the conversation has to be about accountability. Even within the world of government document secrecy, there need to be watchdogs, journalists, independent officials, courts, that make sure secrecy serves the public interest and doesn't shield wrongdoing. What I think we all can agree on is that government transparency issues aren't just bureaucratic headaches. They affect our trust in institutions and directly influence the safety and rights we often take for granted. Anyway, whether you're a policy geek or just someone who enjoys a good suspense story, give Hush, a psychological thriller of alien manipulation and deep state deceit, a look. It'll keep you entertained while giving a powerful lens on these very real and very complex issues we were just talking about. Thanks for listening, and next time you hear about some top secret government files, just remember, there's often a lot more than meets the eye.